Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Netters Network Thursday Things. Well, tonight we're going to have a very special guest. But before I introduce him, let me introduce to you that guy at the end of the bar, the love of my life, Troy Pacelli. How you doing, sweetie? And what are you sipping on?
I'm going to grab myself something right now. I'm going to have a diet grapefruit soda.
And I realized I did not have a drink, so now I am drinking a Waterloo Black Cherry Sparkling Water.
There we go. Yeah. Little scrambling behind the scenes here. So
yeah, sorry, totally my fault. I thought I had all my streams set up because I think I'd mentioned on one of my Thursday things, or maybe it was on Big Al's channel for one of the Saturday Night Rewatches, that I have all my streams set up to the end of the year. And for like my films. And I thought I had all my upcoming guests set up as well. I didn't. So I dropped them all there. So I did already apologize to our guest. And I know that y'all were probably like, where's the stream? Yeah, it was all me. Before I bring our guest in, let me say hello to the people in the chat that we have so far. We have Connie Cleary, who was first, saying hello to everyone. Hi, Connie. Let's see. And then we have, there we go, Gorilla Random Thoughts saying hello to me and Troy. We also have Evelyn Hampton saying good evening to everyone. Big Al Presents. How you doing, sweetie? Jesse Guajardo. How you doing, honey? Delita Sins giving his salute. It's like a bunch of you snuck in here in like the last 30 seconds.
Well, they just got the
notification,
exactly.
Right? Final Fantasy fan 012 saying hello. I'm not going to be here for long. I've got a stream to do with Wolfie. Oh, say hi to Wolfie for us.
Yep.
And I'll be here until we're going to get started. Cool.
Fair enough.
And of course, it's that, Troy Pacelli guy.
Yeah, I'm saying hi to everybody.
Let's see. So far, that is it. And I know we'll have more coming in as the stream continues. So now, without further ado, let me bring in our special guest for tonight, Pop Culture Curator. How you doing, sweetie? And what are you sipping on?
Hello, I am doing great, and I'm sorry, I'm just drinking Pepsi.
There's nothing wrong with that, especially since, for most of us, it's still a work night, so we still got to work tomorrow.
This is pre-weekend.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like
tomorrow I'll break out the hard stuff.
Oh, yeah, it's like
I have to figure out what I'm going to have tomorrow night. I guess I can finish off this bottle of wine. I got like one glass left of this.
I bought you another bottle. You liked it so much.
Yeah, but it's like I don't want to have the same thing every week. But I still have one glass in here.
Can't do a cool and cream for you unless I go out and get you some more cream.
Yeah, that's true. But I'm trying to think of what I do have. Yeah, I've got a bunch of Kahlua. I don't know if I've got any more coconut rum.
Oh, we got plenty of coconut rum.
Do we?
Mm-hmm.
Last I looked, I had one bottle with like
I've got other bottles. Don't worry.
Oh, apparently he's got more bottles. Yeah, so tomorrow night on Troy's stream, that's where we'll be doing cocktails.
Yeah, tomorrow night's cocktails.
Anyway, so Pop Culture Curator. First, I want to know is, how did you come up with your name for your channel?
Well,
basically, give us your elevator pitch on how you came up with your name and how you started your channel.
Yeah,
I had another name, but it was triggering a lot of people, so I had to kind of change it, and had to come up with something related to pop culture because I usually cover a variety of topics on my channel related to pop culture. Oh. I know the term itself is a little overused on the internet, so also while trying to find something unique. But it was basically, I preferred my old name, but like I said, it was triggering too many people constantly. So this is basically my rebrand. It was Super Blubber Puss.
Well, okay.
That was triggering? That triggers laughter.
Yeah, I just don't get it. Yeah, I know, right. Right. Well, so I guess some people just don't have a sense of humor.
I guess not.
Although I think the branding probably would have been completely different for that.
Yeah, I think so.
So I can tell from the icon, if I couldn't tell from the general content, bit of a Trek fan, are you?
Yes, I am. A lot of what I talk about with, I have a partner in crime that her and I both started our YouTube channels right around the same time, and I'd rather Jill. And we're both big Trek fans, and that's what got me started was the topic of Star Trek, talking about the original series. Not, I'm old school. I'm not familiar with the some of the newer Star Trek lore, but when it comes to the old classic stuff, I'm a big fan. Not just Star Trek, but a lot of classic movies and TV shows.
Sure, fair. Yeah, one of my noms de voyage is the Klingon cleric, and I do have, in addition to the Last Call channel, I also have a Klingon cleric channel, which I haven't been doing a lot with, but the most popular video over there is a cooking video for Gach, and I may end up doing more Klingon content over there at some point in the future. But I've been
very interesting. That sounds cool.
Yeah, I've been more focused though, as a generalist over here on Last Call. Just Netter and I just got to over 1,000 subscribers. So
yes, I heard. Congratulations, very cool.
Thank you so much. Getting that milestone down. So
but YouTube likes Troy better because he got an email saying congratulations and I didn't.
Well, yeah, there you go. But be that as it may, that doesn't mean anything until I get the watch hours, and then I can apply for monetization. True. But the point is, thinking about expanding the brand and stuff like that, and alternate channels and stuff like that. So I think the Klingon cleric will be coming back eventually. But
that's a good idea.
Yeah,
and I could be wrong, but I think they may have changed their rules on monetization. It may not require.
Yeah, it's a minimum of 500 subs, but you still need 3,000 watch hours.
Yeah, and I still need to get to the watch hours. Okay. That's why I'm thinking about adding a stream on Mondays. But yeah. So how long have you been in the game? How long has the pop culture been being curated?
About a year and a half. I had my channel, and then about 6 months through, there was something, I don't know what happened, but my entire channel got deleted. So I had to restart it. Wow. So now it's basically a year since I restarted. So that's how long now. Yeah. Otherwise, I would be selling right around March. I would be celebrating my 1-year anniversary.
Wow.
Nice. Well, I'm looking at 760 subscribers on your channel. That's pretty good for 1 year. Not bad at all.
Oh, I'm not going to complain. And they're wonderful people. They're all real. Absolutely no bots. I didn't pay for any of them. And I love them. I know when it comes to content on everyone's channel, they say, find what you do right and stick to it.
Yeah.
But I like classic stuff. I know there's not one particular show or genre that I like to stick to.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like all over the place. But yeah, my subs are really nice, and I don't know. Maybe one of these days I'll get to 1,000 like you guys.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
See, I think the easy way. I changed my avatar to Smolder.
I told her pretty girls get subscriptions really, really fast.
Apparently,
yeah, you're
I
right.
have a big audience in India.
Yeah,
it's India first, then the United States. It's weird.
Interesting.
But I'll that's pretty darn good for 1 year. Over 700. It took me a couple years to get to that point. So you're right on the cusp there. You're probably gonna do it this year. I wouldn't be surprised.
I think it took you about 2 years because I started my channel after you, and it took me a little over a year to get to, what did I have? It was like just under 400 subs.
Yeah.
And then I've been able to build up from there in the last month or so.
I mean, in fairness, I've had the channel for longer than 2 years, but I don't think I really went after it and started putting out my own content. I was just guesting on other people's channels. So
Right.
if we go by the Mexican Iron Man definition of YouTubing, I didn't really start YouTubing until I started making my own videos.
Yeah.
I consider it the same. Right. I had a channel per se, and I spent a lot of time in the chat, listening to other streams, and then eventually got on the panels and would chat with people. But I didn't actually start. I don't consider it starting until I created my own content as well, so I can understand your point of view.
Yep.
It's like, I think one of my most watched videos right now is how to fold a fitted sheet, because apparently no one knows how to do that. And yeah, people have told me, they're like, I love that vid because I can't fold a fitted sheet. And what I did is I took someone else's video that was like it's supposed to be simple how to fold a fitted sheet, and I did it like a real person. So it's like I followed theirs. So I'm like, okay, we're going to fold like this. Then we're going to hold this like this. We're going to do this.
And you could see live how she messes it up and has to start over again. But
yeah, it's like, certain parts where it's like, okay, I think my sheet's bigger than theirs because they've got a pocket here and I don't have a pocket here. My pocket's over here and this sort of thing. But it's like I've gotten so many compliments on that particular one.
A lot of people specifically saying, "Oh gosh, yeah, this I needed this. I couldn't figure out how to do this."
Yeah, and then
Very
I put
cool.
another one recently on a quick, easy way to put on a pillowcase, and that one's getting a lot of traction. So it's like, yeah, those real easy how-tos, the quick tips, that people love them. So.
And that makes sense. I've seen those really just go viral. Those and like hacks and things like that. So yeah, it looks like you've got you're headed in the right direction.
Yeah, it's like all of those quick tips. Like you said, people just love them because it's like, I don't know how to do this thing. Show me how to do this thing.
Yes.
Yep. So obviously, because I feel that affinity with the Star Trek vibe. So you said you're mostly an original series type of guy. What about Next Gen at all?
I watched it upon its first airing. Was not a fan. Have not rewatched it. I know that's not a popular opinion, and people tend to. And I know there's a lot of people that. Like DS9, for example, are their favorites. I'm not going to understand that. And I respect it.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't like the influence. In my opinion, when TNG came out, it was heavily influenced by nighttime soap operas. That's when they started injecting the subplots and things like that. I didn't like the pacing of it.
Yeah.
I just had a few issues, I guess. But like I said, I'm kind of a stickler for the old school stuff.
One of the things that a lot of people in the Trekosphere, Trek commentary sphere have said, and I made this observation myself, that Next Gen, Deep Space Nine, really all the series after that, took a couple seasons to get their footing.
Yes.
And so usually that's an excuse that fans will use with each new series. Well, the first season's always, weak. And I've been thinking about that. You tend to see things a little bit differently as you get older. And looking back, I'm like, that's not really an excuse. I enjoyed Next Generation. It was really my favorite until Enterprise came along. But this idea that we give them a pass on the first and second season because it's finding its footing, no. If you've got good, solid, talented writers who think it through from the beginning, you shouldn't have that problem.
You'd hope. But it's funny you mentioned Enterprise. Isn't that the one they say that took 4 seasons to get started?
I felt like Enterprise went back to the original series kind of spirit, in that it tried to go back to being episodic.
Uh-huh.
But what they had to do is they had to fight against the what was already established with the not just the other Trek series, but television in general. This idea that one episode has to lead into another, has to lead into another. So they had storylines that were through storylines, but every couple episodes would be stand on their own episodes. You know, kind
Gotcha.
of like the original series was, which was great because
Yes.
at least with the original series, you can point to individual episodes, whether it was Spock's brain or, you know, whatever. You know, okay, maybe that episode wasn't so good, but the ones on either side of it were great, right? And you could kind of pick and choose and, you know, not worry too much. But and Enterprise seemed to be that way. But you're absolutely right. They had the weakest part of it was the through story, this temporal Cold War thing that went on just way too long. And by the time they ended it, and it seemed very clunky, it was like, okay, we're done. We're going on to something else. And that it's almost like the writers like broke the fourth wall to say that, you know. But by the time that happened and they started to give us stories that the fans really wanted to see, stories that were the lore leading up to the original series, right? Things that were mentioned like the Romulan War, you know, and stuff like that. Before that could even happen, it was already too late and they were being canceled. And, you know, it's kind of a shame because it's like if you'd have just gotten down to brass tacks, you know, in the first place, we wouldn't be in this position. You know?
And it is a shame that it's a very infamous the ending of Enterprise. That was not fair what they did to the fans
No,
or the
yeah.
cast.
No, I absolutely agree. In fact, there is a fan edit out there floating around, which loaded into my DVD pile, which is it took all those holodeck elements out of it, all of that, and truncated it down into, you know, a succinct Enterprise story. But if you were one of those types that reads the novelizations, they continued the story of Enterprise in the novels, and they started by rewriting that last episode. And they used it was actually kind of brilliant. I wish I could credit the author. I can't think of his name off the top of my head. But just as the last episode of Enterprise was framed within a next generation you know, story as though it was a holodeck story being told to Riker, you know, or that he's playing out or whatever.
Right.
The story of is being retold to Jake Sisko by the Ferengi Nog, is that his name? Anyway, his friend who
Yeah,
said, I
Nog.
was going through the archives and I found that history as we know it is wrong, and I wanted to share this to you. And you're because Jake Sisko had gone on to become like a news reporter in their time, and he's like, you could break this story, you could tell everyone the real story of what happened to Enterprise, and they completely rewrite the story, and it's way better.
I'm sure it had to be.
But I love that idea of using the same, you know, generational frame to go back and, you know, retell the story. It was actually quite brilliant. Jesse Guajardo says, Troy, I remember people saying the same thing about Star Wars prequel films, wishing that the Clone Wars started in episode 1 and ended in episode 3. And I think he's being a little sly because I think he's throwing some of my own words back at me in that one. I think I have said that in the past. No, you're absolutely right. And this is one of the few places where I will give a little bit of defense to Filoni for his Clone Wars, his work on the Clone Wars, because that cartoon series really does tell the story of the Clone Wars, which is what we really wanted from the prequel movies and barely got. So, you know, yeah, exactly right. I think it would have been better if they'd started at 2, had another movie in between, and then done 3. But This is what, and this is one of the things I've said about Star Trek as well. You can credit whomever you want as the creator of it and the visionary, but what makes a success, the Bible says, many advisors make victory assured.
Yep.
George Lucas he was not the only guy doing Star Wars. There's a what's it called? Documentary talking about Marsha Lucas, who basically saved Star Wars in the editing.
Yes,
Plus
absolutely.
He got other advice from other people about different things. And he trusted the people that he was working with to make for a better film. Then he directed the first one, but he gave up the directing seat for the next two movies. And I think it was, I don't know if I'm going to say it was better for it, but it certainly, brought something to it. Bringing in Lawrence Kasdan to write Empire. This is why people think Empire is the best of the movies. But then you see the prequels and you're like, well, here's Star Wars if George Lucas did everything.
Yes.
It was okay, but nowhere near as good. And this is one of the things I say when people come back and go, well, this new Star Trek isn't Gene Roddenberry's vision. And it's like, none of the Star Trek you really liked was Gene Roddenberry's vision.
Yeah.
I mean,
Star Trek was a group effort.
It very much was. And if you look at, how many episodes did he actually write? Not that many.
Right, and usually the more hands-on he had, the more trouble it seemed to cause. That's why they after Star Trek: The Motion Picture, they had so many issues with him. They bumped him upstairs.
Yeah,
and just said, okay, you can send us a few notes every here and there, but we're going to take it from here, and that's why Star Trek 2 became what it was.
Yep,
and he didn't like it, right. and then he didn't like it, right?
And they made the same mistake with, and we were just talking about how the first two seasons of Next Generation were not good. Well, he was the executive producer on those two seasons, and it was after that, where third season, they said, you know what? We're going to make you a consulting producer.
There you go. Yes.
And we're gonna kind of take over. And that's when you had people like Rick Sternbach and Mike Okuda come in and start fleshing out the canon and all this kind of stuff, and putting together a writer's Bible so that you could give the writers their freedom to tell their own stories, but they had to be confined within the parameters of what was considered canon.
Yes, I completely agree.
So that's that. So yeah, I am not a fan of the newer Trek either, especially the post Kurtzman, post J.J. Abrams era.
Mm-hmm.
But I cannot stand on the argument of this isn't Gene Roddenberry's. Yeah, you were a fan of Next Gen, you were a fan of Deep Space Nine, blah blah blah, all those movies. That was not Gene Roddenberry either. So let's be fair here. There's enough you can hold against the bad reboot Star Trek without invoking Gene Roddenberry.
Yes, the original Star Trek was a group effort, and if you look at some of the best episodes, they were written by actual science fiction authors that were published and they had books.
Anne Crispin, for example,
yes,
she wrote some of the best episodes.
Right. And, I know history seems to gloss over a lot of that, especially as people die. People tend to take credit for, their work, which is really sad.
Yes.
But,
you're right.
Yeah, but that's what happened. I do want to say, I didn't want anybody to think I was rude, but I wanted to say a special warm hello and hugs to everyone in the chat there. I see people saying hello to me.
Sweet.
And I wanted to respond and say hello, everybody.
Absolutely.
Good to see you all.
Right on. CK, is saying Roddenberry's desires for Next Gen sounded horrible. There wasn't even going to be a ship. They were going to just beam from world to world, which is ironic because that seems to be what J.J. Abrams was trying to do.
Yes.
His, Star Trek. Yeah. Good point. Look, I'm not going to say that can't happen. I mean, in a way, that's kind of what Stargate's premise was, right? But you gotta, if you're going to do that, you're kind of breaking your own premise. It's not Star Trek anymore. Now it's Stargate. It becomes something completely different.
Well, not only that, though, if you're making everything and everyone perfect, there's no challenges, there's no danger, and there's
Right.
no goal to overcome. So you're taking all that out, and that's the reason. Like for example, like a character arc, if you make them perfect from the very beginning, that everything they do is wonderful, absolutely amazing, you're going to find out that you're not going to they're not going to be believable. You're not going to, by the end of the movie or TV show, whatever you're watching, you're probably not going to like them because their
Yeah.
character hasn't grown at all. And yeah, I heard about the idea about beaming right from planet to planet, and all that, and it's like, no, it was horrible. I like when something, like I said, it has to be a challenge where they've got to earn it. It's got to
Yep.
be it's got to be primitive at first. It's got to be struggling. It's got to be baby steps, and then we've got to see where they're knocked down, and they learn their lesson, and they can't be cocky.
Yeah.
That not everything they get, is going to be coming their way the first time, and then eventually everything will come to them as long as they fight for it and they earn it. That is.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, how many times did Scotty have to tell the captain, but Captain, of course I have 30 minutes.
Right.
Yeah, which of course builds the suspense and whatnot. I was going to say you pretty much just summed up Star Trek too. That whole bit about Savick, citing the regulations and Spock stepping in and going, "I'm sure the Admiral is well aware of the," and then all of a sudden, he gets caught with his pants down and they
Yes.
get blasted, and he's like, "You know what, Savick, you go on citing those regulations," because he got humbled. He was like, "Oh, but that's great foreshadowing too, because even though he's acknowledged, yeah, I need to humble out a bit, he gets his biggest humbling at the end when Spock dies, right?
Yes. Which is telling us, the audience, there's still a lot to learn about these people. They're not all perfect. Mm-hmm. Right. When the series ended, there was still a lot to learn and a lot to look forward to. And I think that was an amazing choice that they did. It showed them as vulnerable. It showed that they were not perfect. They made mistakes.
Even after all this time, after he's become an admiral and, proven that, he's the guy that they call on to save the galaxy time and time again, he's not infallible. And it cost him his friend. And he can't even say he saved the day this time. He can't even say he saved the Enterprise. It was Spock that gave his life to do it.
That is correct. Yes, absolutely. Uh-huh.
And that is incredibly humbling, which, of course, leads into the third movie, where everybody is willing to put their careers, maybe even their freedom, on the line to go and rescue Spock when they realize that there's hope for him, right? And and why? That whole thing about the needs of the few outweigh the needs of the many in this case, because it's not logical, but that's just how it has to be. One thing that I always wished that we had gotten more from Star Trek, they had this tendency to overgeneralize the different races. The Klingons were warlike, and the Vulcans were completely logical and emotionless, and the Ferengi were greedy and stuff. And you start looking at that, going, well, wow, humans aren't any one thing. Why are all of them? And they did do stories here and there where you'd find out that there was, this. Well, Star Trek. What was it? Star Trek 5. Cybok is a Vulcan who doesn't, embrace logic, and uses his, psychic abilities to, take away people's negative emotions, stuff like that. But what I would have loved to have seen is the juxtaposition. And You could argue that they kind of did this a little bit with Enterprise. They tried to do it a little bit with Discovery. The juxtaposition of the Vulcans and the Klingons, because certainly if the Vulcans are the emotionless, logical ones, the Klingons are the emotional, passionate ones, right? And
Yes.
I kind of like that. And I could totally see a storyline with some kind of conflict there. And the humans kind of embodying both and going, okay, wait a minute. Let's meet in the middle here, folks. You know?
Exactly
Which,
right. I completely agree with you. Yes.
which honestly, I thought we were going to get more of as we saw the conflict between the Andorians and the Vulcans in Enterprise. I thought it's going to be the humans, that both races thought were the inferior, late to the party, just developed warp drive, who come out and say, hey, guys, can't we all just get along? And that's really how the United Federation of Planets starts. At least that's what we presume. But again, the series ended before we had a chance to see.
Yes, it did. And I have to agree with you. Where they would generalize certain races because at first it's almost like us in real life when we've heard about like just say a foreign
Like
country,
stereotypes, yeah.
right? You have your stereotypes. You think, well, I've heard that they're all like this,
Yeah,
and then but you know what happens when you meet one of them, you find out you know what they're not all like that. Like with Star Trek, where they knew the Romulans, they had heard about them. But a lot of what they had learned was legend, and they heard they were a warlike race, and they heard that they were an offshoot of the Vulcans.
yeah,
But then immediately what we get here is in TOS is in Balance of Terror, we found out that they're not all that different from Captain Kirk or the Earthlings. That's the comparison that the Romulan commander made. He said if it was things were different, we could be friends.
exactly.
So I think that was the first thing that they had to prove was that you cannot stereotype everyone, that everyone is different. And that was back in the 1960s. That was a rarity to get that kind of point of view.
Actually,
They kind of bucked the system.
that Balance of Terror episode, that was, again, you get this feeling that, wait, was that the one? Yeah, I think it was, where, yeah, that's the first time they find out that the Romulans look like Vulcans, and
Correct.
and it was the whole cloaking device thing where it was kind of like um, Hunt for Red October type of story.
Yes, yes.
And what they haven't had any communication, they haven't talked to each other, but both captains on both ships are evaluating the other one based on what they do.
Correct.
Now,
Yes.
Kirk doesn't know anything about the Romulans, so he can't make any assumptions. All he can go by is what he sees. And they do have a kind of meeting of the minds just based on that. And there is that somewhat mutual respect through an adversarial situation, right?
Yes.
That's some brilliant writing. I don't think there's enough people in the entertainment industry today that are writing like that. Now, I'm not saying the talent doesn't
Oh,
exist. I fear more that it's the industry that's preventing those stories from being told anymore.
yes. That's where you hit the nail on the head. They do still exist. Obviously, there's still some magnificent writers out there. There still is a lot of amazing content and imaginations to be
Yeah,
explored, but that's not who they're hiring.
yep,
That's the problem. Is right. They're telling them that that's what they're saying. They're saying you can write what. No, well, that's not what we want. That's not the agenda that we want to fill. And that seems to be what's permeating Hollywood right now, both the TV shows and the movies. And what's crazy is we see that they're looking at themselves saying, well, everything we make is losing money, but
yeah,
they continue it. They still continue it. I don't know if that's going to end anytime soon. I don't know if it's going to end anytime within my lifetime, but it's a sad state of affairs where if we want some original imagination, things that are truly challenging, people that are willing to take a risk, we've got to currently look back at the classics, which it's very depressing in my opinion. The best I could do is hold out hope that one of these days, so at least some of the studios, maybe some smaller ones, might wake up and start changing their ways.
Mm-hmm.
I know Disney seems to be the biggest, most powerful, but yet they're the ones making the biggest mistakes at this point. But I
And
don't think that's sustainable. It's not going to last forever, in my opinion.
I tend to agree with you. And so I have to ask this, uh, as we're having this conversation, and I think a lot of the channels, mine included, and so many of the others that we tend to frequent, are concerned about pop culture. We love pop culture. We're concerned about it. And would you say that that's kind of a part of the driving force behind being a pop culture curator?
It is. It's my hope that I can, like with my channels, I cover two of my streams are Gilligan's Island and Lost in Space. And I know that those particular shows play to more of an older audience.
Sure.
But when I host those, I I I restrict on what people say, even down to language. Sorry, my dogs are wanting attention, but even down to language, I do not let anybody say anything that will not be acceptable during the 1960s because I'm hoping that some young people out there for a change might come along and discover and see this and say, what is this? And I have had people contact me, email me, younger people, and say, I didn't even know this show existed. This is great. You should do more. So I know it's possible. And I don't want to, and but I'm a retired teacher. And I learned that you never overestimate people. You never think, oh, they're too stupid or they're dumb because they will always surprise you. You never know. I can show classics. I can show things that are black and white. I can show silent movies. And there's going to be young people out there that are going to pick up on it and they're going to appreciate it. So never give up on the new generation.
Yeah.
That's what Hollywood thinks that we're going to do. That's what Hollywood has already done. What they've done is they think people, anybody who's like 40, 45 or above, they don't care about. They think, well, they'll eventually die off. What we want to do is we want to reprogram the younger generation to watch what we give them when we all know that's not reality and that's not what we're going to give them. So the best thing we can do as teachers is I don't care if you're a mother or a father or what your job is, you're still a teacher when it comes to being around other people who can be influenced, younger people.
Yeah.
So never give up on them and always try to spread the good word, I guess you could say, and remind them that hey, there used to be a better day and with better content out there that is not offensive and it doesn't go against your better judgment or your morals. You can watch a
Right.
good old show like that that makes you feel good at the end. Not make sure
Yeah.
it does not make you feel guilty or ashamed in any way like some of the new stuff now. So I don't want to sound too preachy, but you've got to always remember that there's always a younger audience out there. So I'll always gear my stuff for them. Sorry about that.
You're getting ready to beam up?
My cell phone. That's the alert. When I
That
get a
is awesome. That is awesome. I remember I used to have a flip phone, and I used to imagine that it was like a communicator.
I still have those.
Yeah, but we don't have
yes,
we
we
don't have
do.
cell connection for those.
And I'm a little obsessed because since I got my first cell phone back in the early 2000s,
Uh-huh.
I've carried the same ringtones with me ever since. I've transferred them from phone to phone, carrier to carrier.
I don't blame you.
So these ringtones I have are very old, and I like them because whenever I'm in a room full of people, I always know when it's my phone going off.
Exactly right. So I think you hit on something that I wanted to comment on that was really very insightful, and it's something I think about a lot. When you have fans, there's a Ferengi rule of acquisition
Uh-huh.
that customers are like Latin. You should treasure them, and that's just basic capitalism. That's what
Yes.
your audience, your consumers, your customers are. Anyone who's ever been in business of any kind will tell you your customers are your lifeblood. And it does seem like the entertainment industry has forgotten that. And there's also this idea that you always do want to be expanding and growing your audience or your clientele base or your consumer base or whatever it is, but not at the risk of losing your core constituents, right?
Yes, exactly.
And this is especially true and especially easy to conceptualize from an entertainment standpoint, right? Star Trek is probably the best example because the old timers like us were hard into the original series. Maybe they made the leap to next gen, maybe they didn't, but definitely they passed on that love to their kids who might then have gotten into next gen and further things. The problem is when there's this big gap and then you drive off the old audience while looking for that new audience.
Yep.
You are counting on that old audience to bring in that new audience.
Yes.
Otherwise, you have no future. That's the problem.
Right. The point is to always remember you talk to your audience, not at them.
Exactly. There was, I want to say it was a Toys R Us commercial. I'm pretty sure this was, of course, before, there was no more Toys R Us. But there was a Toys R Us commercial that was marketing for The Force Awakens. And this was before anyone knew anything about what Disney Star Wars was going to be like. And it was this great commercial of a father trying to get his daughter to watch Star Wars with him. And she just wasn't interested and she just wasn't having it. And you could tell it really upset him that he couldn't share this thing with his daughter. And then one day he's looking for her in the toy store, and she's in the Star Wars aisle holding up a lightsaber.
Yeah,
and he says, I am your father, and it's that great moment. And the whole point of it was handing on Star Wars to the next generation. And I'm like, I was all fired up. I was all in. Then of course you remember the marketing for Force Awakens. Chewie,
Absolutely.
we're home. It's like, okay, yeah, I'm all in. And then after I saw it, I was like, what?
Yeah, I felt suckered as well. I have to admit that scene when I saw the clip sort of kind of brought a tear to my eye, and I thought, is it real? Is this real? Is it please don't be a cruel hoax, is what I thought.
And it kind of turned out, well, at the end of Force Awakens, you're like, oh, I can still salvage this. If the next movie is like Empire worthy, it could be great, right? But then you started getting the in quotes, marketing that was blaming the fans as being toxic and phobic and this and that. And I'm like, oh, really? Okay, well, maybe I just won't be there for your next movie if I'm so toxic. And
yeah, the fact they have the nerve these days to actually attack the audience, it's amazing. And I don't understand it because it's so idiotic. They don't realize that it's actually, you get the opposite effect when you do that. It's not going to draw people in, obviously. And the fact that they do that is on a regular basis, they're already doing that with Madam Web. Madam Web, it was less than a week ago premiered. It failed. All the critics said it was bad, universally panned. Everybody says it's bad. And naturally, next thing you know, articles are coming out attacking men. And it's like, they still don't get it.
And therein is your white pill, right? Because it used to be that all of the mainstream media was pushing that narrative. Now the mainstream media and the mainstream reviewers are turning and going, nope, this sucks. It just sucks. You might every now and again get a little minor virtue signal. Well, it's a shame that this female-led show isn't better, but it's not good. And it's like, well, okay, now at least we're getting some honesty here.
Yes, exactly, right. Right. The fact that Madam Web it got a 14% score on Rotten Tomatoes, it tells us the tides, they may be slow, but they are slowly turning.
Yeah. And Disney may be a lost cause, but at least we know Sony has now canceled their plans for future Madam Web related stuff. They're
have
slowing
they?
up on uh they're putting off Blade by a year. So it sounds like there's some retooling going on. Um Paramount looks like they're going to get sold. So I think the entire industry is starting to realize if we're going to survive, we gotta get back to what used to work. You
Well, you can
know,
always hope. And I don't know if it's true, but I heard that if and when Paramount sells, Star Trek may be separate.
and I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, because here's the problem with that. It's we've had this problem for so long of Star Trek being divided and brought back together and divided and brought back together, and the rights for this don't go with that, and the movies don't go with the TV shows, and then Kurtzman and J.J. Abrams don't go with what went before it, and all this other stuff, and it's a complete rights related mess now, and it's the same problem that has been the demise of DC. I think people forget, and I haven't talked about this in a long time, but DC Comics was having huge problems long before they started to go woke, as they call it. It was long before that when DC Comics decided we are going to cut out the people that created different elements of these characters that the fans love so that we don't have to pay them royalties. We'll
Royalties,
get rid
yes.
of this character. And look, this is what I keep reminding everyone. This is where a lot of this kind of DEI stuff, at least within DC Comics, I can't speak for the rest of the entertainment industry, but getting rid of, Clark Kent and putting in his son and making him all intersectional and everything. Okay, fine. It's because they don't want to keep giving money to the families of Siegel and Schuster and whomever else owns rights to those elements. That's another reason they wanted to get rid of the red trunks, because if we change the outfit, then we don't have to give rights to this person and that person and the other.
Yes, I completely agree that that is their motive, and it's terrible. And
And
it's
the
the same
fans are
reason why.
rejecting it.
Right. Yes, the fans are. The box office on the last few superhero movies have proven that. And another thing is, a lot of fans say, we don't get it because, these movies they keep making are horrible. Why? Because there's so many comic books. There's years of comic books with amazing stories. They can always go back and pull out of those, and they would make $1 billion instantly. But the problem is, you're right, they don't want to pay the little bit of royalty, the little bit of credit to whoever the writers or the estate of whoever the writers are, and it's a shame.
Yeah.
It's their blind greed. The most they'll do, like with Disney, is they'll pull a little hint from the story there, or a little hint from the story there, or here and there, just enough where they can't get sued, or they'll basically, even when they do pull enough, they can get sued, like Paramount has proven with
Yeah.
Star Trek, is they'll just hire up and lawyer up to where they'll win whatever lawsuit it is. I don't remember the gentleman's name, but obviously Discovery stole some guy's idea about the tardigrades. I remember that. And he tried to sue them, and they outlawyered him. And that was a disgrace.
Yep, that's exactly right. And and the other thing is, it was a completely non-Star Trek thing to do. I mean, the story made no sense. Tardigrades and magic mushrooms and all. It's like, and I don't know if you follow Overlord DVD Doomcock or whatever, but he was talking about apparently one of his sources is saying that all of these people in writers' rooms pushing the DEI and stuff, one of their big triggers is mentioning canon. If you do that, they just freak out because it's like, no, we're doing this our way. This is, well, you arrogant effers. First, you didn't create this, so it's not yours, right? If anything, it belongs to the company that owns the IP. But I think the companies that own the IP have to understand that they only own it to the extent that the fans allow them to. Because look at what's happening when the fans walk away. You've got nothing, right?
Right.
So,
and it's not just the writers too, but it's also the owners of said franchises. They're also telling the writers, "Don't worry about canon. we don't have time to go back and do our research. Just write whatever you want.
And
So that's
good
another
writers,
thing too, right?
you know, I think about people like Script Doctor, who's a frequent contributor over on
Yeah,
Midnight's Edge.
yeah, he's an excellent man. I enjoy
He,
Script Doctor. I'm on Midnight
he
Edge all the time. Well, not on the
exact
panel, but yes.
he is always talking about how if you're not willing to put in the time and the effort to know what went before to continue the storyline, you have no business writing for that. Go make up your own thing.
Yes,
You know,
right.
I mean, look, bringing it back to Star Trek again, Nicholas Meyer, right? Who did Star Trek 2, considered by most to be the best of at least the best of the original series era, but possibly the best Star Trek movie, period.
It's the one they're still trying to attain. They seem to keep copying it over and over, right?
Exactly, and never getting it, because why?
Yes.
He went in, he wasn't a fan of Star Trek. He didn't know all the details and the lore, but what did he do? He took the time to watch every damn episode of the original series.
Right.
And when he came away from it, he goes, okay, I get what this is. I don't get science fiction, but I get the characters. I get the basic premise. Because let's face it, the writers weren't writing it as, well, they were writing science fiction, but they were writing from what they knew. They were writing from their experiences in the Navy and the Coast Guard and, you know, what they knew about the real world and so forth. And Nicholas Meyer said, I get that, you know, and then he saw what the relationship between Spock and McCoy and Kirk was, because he understood character development. And he's like, I'm going to focus on that. And that is what made it the best.
And then you had Babylon 5, where the creator, writer wrote the entire thing.
He had 5 seasons planned out now.
Right.
He meandered towards the end because of interference from the studios. But the important point was he had it mapped out, you know.
And then you had the things that you saw one thing happen like in season 1 that had a great payoff in season 5.
There were great payoffs. He'd plant seeds that bore fruit 2, 3, 4 years later. That's brilliant writing. Yeah.
It is. Yeah. And that's a good way of keeping your audience too.
Exactly
Absolutely.
Right.
And it was just a great series in general. I mean, the characters were likable. The ones you were supposed to hate, you hated. The ones you're supposed to like, you liked. You know, the storylines kept you interested. And it's one of those things where you actually looked forward to seeing the next episode the next week. Same with Star Trek. Back in the day, it's like I couldn't wait every week to see the next episode. I want to find out what was going on, you know?
Yes.
Jesse Guajardo says, here's something I don't understand. How come they can't come up with an alternate universe storyline so that they won't interrupt the canon storyline similar to Gundam? I'll tell you exactly why. It's because we have cultural vandals who have taken over, like Disney, for example, but all of these franchises that are looking to how did Ryan Johnson put it? Destroy the past, kill it if you have to.
Yeah, but exactly where they even censor right on screen. It's like, yeah, can you be any more obvious?
Mm-hmm. They are specifically pulling down all the statues and hiding and changing history in the real world. So you better believe they're trying to do it with our pop culture.
Yes, they are.
That is why they're doing it. And these alternate universes are just an excuse. Create another alternate universe to tell the story of Superman as a Nazi, or Superman crash landing in Soviet Russia. You know,
and isn't that saying something like those who don't remember history are doomed to repeat it?
Yes. Those who do not learn from the past are destined to repeat it. Yeah, exactly.
It's like
George Santayana.
Yeah, because it's like, with them.
That's why they're
history.
Yeah, right, that's why they're deleting those history books. They don't want them to have something to refer to, right? So they're changing history right before our very eyes.
And Philip Gaming, welcome. We are going to be wrapping up shortly, but you can always, of course, Memorex when we get done here.
Yeah, just hit the rewind.
Just hit rewind, exactly. Be kind, rewind. But that's kind of what we're all about here, right? You call yourself culture curator. Clearly, it's what you're doing, right?
Well,
And
it does not mean I'm an expert. Some people say, "Oh, you must be an expert. Then you must know everything." Well, no, it does not. Like I said, the reason why I picked this name is because I couldn't use Super Blubberpuss. So there. So
well, you
I'm
don't
not
have
an
to.
expert. Yeah, by any stretch of the imagination, there are people that know Star Trek better than I do. There are people who know Star Wars better than I do.
And it's not about being an expert. It's about what is a curator. I mean, the curator of a museum isn't necessarily the expert of everything in that museum. He just makes sure everything is taken care of and preserved so that everyone can enjoy it. And isn't that what
Yes.
we do? We Aged Boomer on Geeky Geezers. He always has. He starts out the show because we're going to go into the news and we're going to be talking about Dismal Disney and all the other stuff we're going to rant about. But he starts out each show with the good old days, where we just talk about a show or a movie or toys and games or something that we remember from our childhood that maybe the younger people don't know about, that they can look into these days because internet makes that possible.
Right.
Real quick, want to say hi to Leia Rose, who's also jumped in here. Welcome. It's always awesome to see you here.
Hello there.
And I just pinned Pop Culture Curator's link to his channel to the top of the chat. So make sure that you click on that and you subscribe to him.
Of course. And of course,
I appreciate that. Very kind of you.
And of course, it's in the description below as well. For those of you in the future, I don't know if those of you in the future see the pinned comments or what, but so he is at 760. I want to be able to refresh. I just refreshed it. It's 761 because one of you.
Oh, thanks to you all. Thank you.
One of you guys at least subscribed to him. So if you're not already one of those 761 subscribers, right click on that link that Netter pinned to the top there. Go to his channel and just hit that subscribe button.
That's very sweet of you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Absolutely. So, true, but oddly enough, the Gundam series has multiple universes like the OG Gundam. Yeah, I don't know much about Gundam. I don't know the animes and the and that kind of stuff. We're getting another call there. There you go.
I know. Sorry about that.
No worries. I especially love the fact that it's the Star Trek sound. That's just awesome. But yeah, we are at the 1 hour mark. Pop Culture Curator, what can we look forward to on your channel? Do you have anything special planned in the next week or so?
In the next week or so, on Saturday, 7 p.m. Mountain Time, I have open topic, open mic for anybody who would like to join. I call it my rumblings from the lab. That usually goes on for sometimes 4 or 5 hours or more. So It can be a little crazy. It's where friends get together. Nobody offends anybody. Everyone's there to support everyone. And it's just to enjoy ourselves and have a good time. Monday at 7 p.m. Mountain Time, I cover the classic series Lost in Space. I do an episode every Monday. We are currently on season 2.
Uh-huh.
And on Tuesday at 7 p.m. Mountain Time, I have a horror sci-fi stream. And this week we are delving into Hammer horror. So we are going to be doing the Return of Frankenstein. I had to remember. I'm still scheduling it for Tuesday, but starring Peter Cushing. I'm a big horror fan.
Oh, sure.
And I especially the old classic Hammer horror.
Yeah.
And then Wednesday night, we covered 2 episodes of Gilligan's Island. We are currently in season 3 of that. When we are done with Gilligan's Island, I will be moving on from there to a series called Night Gallery.
Night Gallery. I love Night Gallery.
Yeah, good stuff.
But thank you for having me on tonight. You guys are very, very kind.
Oh, absolutely. Speaking of Gilligan's Island, let's make a connection there. A Galaxy Quest. I love the reference to Gilligan's Island when they're telling them, we've been monitoring your broadcasts, and and they take everything as though it's absolutely real. He goes,
yes.
You don't believe that Gilligan's Island is? Oh, those poor people
right.
trapped on that island. Can't someone go find them? Oh my gosh.
And it's amazing because Gilligan's Island is so popular. It is still being shown in syndication to this
It
day
is.
in hundreds of different languages everywhere. A lot of series over the years have came and gone, but they're still showing Gilligan's Island. Rest assured. So it's wholesome. It's fun for the entire family. It's not offensive. It's almost like watching a live action cartoon, and I couldn't praise it anymore. I love this show, and I hope my stream introduces it to new audiences.
Did you know that Gilligan's Island was the one was the show was the ground zero for a lawsuit where the actors were suing to get residuals. They were the first ones that in syndication started getting residuals for their shows because up until that point, a show would be shown and you get paid for it, and that was it.
And they weren't
You are
paid a lot
correct.
for those episodes either.
Yep.
No, they were not. No, you are correct. So you're saying that they won the lawsuit and they were paid residuals?
Yep.
I had not heard that. Interesting. No, good for them if that's the case because
And
Stuart
then-
Schwartz made billions off of it, so it's not like he couldn't afford it.
exactly. And then it was the cast of Happy Days that sued for the use of their likeness. Because really that wasn't a big part of entertainment until about the 70s when like Mego started making action figures of all these
Yes.
characters from these TV shows, lunch boxes and all that kind of stuff. And the Happy Days crew was like, hey, you're going to have our faces, on these things and you're making money off of us. We deserve a portion of that too. And it went to court. And that's why, people's likenesses, they get paid for those action figures.
And Jessica Harlow said, Troy, have you seen down Periscope where they made the Gilligan's Island joke? It's like, we actually have down Periscope coming up on one of my rewatches.
Yeah, this year we're probably going to be rewatching that on Netter's channel.
Oh, I know.
It's a good movie, yes.
It is.
The group there. And Continuing Chronicles said the Navy received tons of letters from viewers begging them to rescue the cast of Gilligan's
Yes, they did. Yes, it's true, but it is very, it's sad and hilarious, but it is very, very true.
Well, my big thing was the professor was always coming up with these gadgets, but he couldn't figure out how to get them off the island.
Well, but
they did work on that one. They did work on that one step at a time. They did try. Obviously, I can't go into too much detail because it was on the air for 3 seasons. But the closest they came to it is they did get to the point where they were repairing their boat. They had it all back together 100%, but then the glue they used was unstable and it popped loose, and that destroyed the So past that point, then they were trying to rely on outside means, like other people who came to the island and things like that.
Yeah, it is really one of the most realistic things because even if you know to look for a ship in the Pacific Ocean, you could know the approximate area, but you have no idea where to look. They didn't have like a homing beacon or anything like that. They didn't have a reliable radio that they could call for help and stuff like that. It's a lot more difficult. Needle in a haystack is actually optimistic. So that's probably the one thing that they were pretty accurate on.
Yes.
And then every time the professor would come up with a plan that might have rescued them, Gilligan ends up screwing it up, which is, of course, what keeps the show going.
He did, but there were times where Gilligan saved the day, so it kind of balanced out in the end.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So
and it has and people have been known to get lost on deserted islands, so it absolutely is a real thing that can happen.
Yeah, I mean, look at Amelia Earhart. Never got her back. But okay, so that's what you've got coming up. Everybody, like I said, please make sure that you are subscribed to Pop Culture Curator.
Thank you.
We got them at least one tonight, but we want to get them. Everybody who's here, all 14 of you that are watching, make sure you're subscribed to Pop Culture Curator, and all of you that stop by in the future too. So tomorrow night, over on my channel, 9:00 Central, 10 Eastern.
Hold on, my earbuds fell. Oh, there we go.
Oh, echo. Last Call with Troy Pacelli. My guest behind the bar will be fitness expert James Hawthorne, who's going to maybe encourage us if we had made a New Year's resolution to get in shape, lose a little bit of weight. It's been about 2 months, and a lot of people are starting to fall
So
off.
you're going to have a healthy alcoholic beverage.
Well, I'm going to talk to him about that, because I said to him, I said, look, if we're going to be on brand, I'm not giving up my alcohol. So we'll definitely be talking about that. He's going to cut through some of the myths of some of these modern and maybe even not so modern fad diets and whatnot. See if there's any truth to any of them.
Looks like you got another sub.
There you go.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank
You're
you.
growing
Thank
up
you.
as it is. That's
I owe
awesome.
you guys for this. I owe you. Thank you.
That's awesome. Let me.
Now, see, my practice is if someone subs to me and they actually show up in.
You'll sub back to them.
Yeah,
right,
I'll sub back to them.
Oh, me too. Same here. I will.
There you go. Jesse Guajardo says he just.
Right. I figure it's the
together we
least I
grow.
could do.
Absolutely.
Yeah. PJ from Orville Nation always says, "Together we grow."
Together we grow.
So
rising ships.
Hi,
sub to
PJ.
me, I sub back always.
Yep. Rising tide raises all ships and so forth. Welcome, Samuel Proctor. And I don't think I said hi to Pacific 414. I saw you there, but we were in the middle of saying something
Leia
else.
is here.
I did say hi to Leia.
Hello, LDG, and my good friend Connie Cleary. Good to see you all.
Absolutely, she's become dubbed the bird woman of YouTube.
Yeah.
So that is as I was saying, tomorrow night, 9 Central, 10 Eastern, on my channel, and then Saturday, is
Big
that
Al.
Big Al? That's Big Al for a watch party of The Villain.
Oh, wait! You're talking about the one with Kurt Douglas. Kurt Douglas.
And a very young Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yes, I love that movie. It's like a live-action Warner Brother Looney Tunes cartoon.
Yep, that's going to be a lot of fun. I vaguely remember. I think I saw an edited version of it on television when I was a kid. I don't even remember any of the details about it. So
I don't know it at all. So it's going to be new for me.
Oh, you're going to like it though. It's a comedy. It's a lot.
Great choice.
It's funny because they'll ask me after I've seen a movie I haven't seen before. They're like, "So what'd you think?" Sometimes it's like, "No, didn't like it."
Yeah, not my thing.
Not my thing.
No, this one you will enjoy.
You have 3 new subs now.
Whoa! There you go.
That is more than I would have ever asked for.
There you go. And yeah. So Big Al presents Saturday night, 9 Central, 10 Eastern for The Villain. Then, of course, Sunday is deleted scenes all day. Western Cinema presents at 3 Central, Unscripted at 7 Central. Then jump over to Age of Boomers channel at 8 Central for Geeky Geezers, where we'll bring you your geeky news and review for the week. Possibly stuff that you've heard about on other channels, but I bet you we bring a very different perspective from those other channels. And then close out your weekend with deleted scenes at midnight Eastern, 11 Central, with The Other Side of Midnight.
And then Tuesday is another deleted
Tuesday,
scene.
we're back on deleted scenes, but that is live from Sparkwood and 21, 7:30 Central, 8:30 Eastern for the next episode of Twin Peaks. We are about midway through season 2. And that brings us around to next week. What are we doing next week, Netter of Netters Network?
Next Thursday, right here on Thursday Things, my special guest would be Sci-Fi Mombi.
Sci-Fi Mombi. Been
Another
looking
sci-fi
forward
fan?
to this one. Yeah. She, I have a hard time catching her stream live because she's the other side of the pond and different time zones, and makes it very, very difficult. But really looking forward to hanging out with her next week.
Yes.
And that's it. That's all I got
for the week. And Julie Steen says links are available on my channel.
There you go.
Because he's everywhere.
Yeah.
He is totally everywhere.
And you don't be surprised if you guys see me popping up on your channels. I will be checking them out. Thank you guys so much.
Awesome. Yeah. Everybody subscribe to each other. Obviously we want you to subscribe to our guest tonight, but subscribe to each other always, because together
And
we
if you
grow.
think you're sub, go back and double check you're still sub, because YouTube likes to take those away, because that's just the way they are.
Yes, it is. Sad.
It is sad.
Sad but true.
Yes. And of course,
Yep.
to end the stream like I always do, we can talk amongst ourselves, and that's all well, good, and fun. But it is so much more fun when you guys are joining us in the chat and you're dropping your comments, questions, trivia, being goofy, whatever it may be. And it doesn't feel like we're separated by miles or continents in some cases. It feels like we're all hanging out in the same room, enjoying each other's company and having a great time. And you guys, you're not just our friends. You are our family. We love you guys, and we appreciate you so very much. You can be anywhere right now, and you chose to be here, and it's so encouraging to all of us. I love seeing the same faces every week, and when we do have a new person come in, you're so welcoming, and I love that. And the way you guys, say hello to each other every week, it's just really fun to see. So thank you for being here. Thank you for encouraging us. God bless you. Have that I can't talk. Have a great rest of your week until we see you again. And we will definitely see you next time.